Bem-vindo a todos. Eu sou a Josephine, do Projeto Paradiso, diretora executiva, aqui com o meu time. E obrigada pela presença de vocês. Hoje vamos falar da Bolsa Nipkow. Então, tá todo mundo conectado. Beleza. So, hi everyone. Thank you for being here. And so, thank you to John Burgan, representing the Nipkow Program, a residency based in Berlin, whom we've partnered with since this year and this year, basically. We actually currently have someone there. Mariana Tomé is right now a Brazilian resident right with us, and she's at the Nipkow program. And Lo Polici is also here and was a resident at the Nipkow program. And we also will be joined by Cassiano Prado, who also was at the Nipkow program earlier this year. So thank you, John, for being with us. You will tell us all about the Nipkow program and how it works. We will offer, as of Paradiso, a fellowship consisting in an additional financial aid and the travel costs from Brazil, so amounting to 15,000 reais. I will not make the conversion because it'll look like very little in dollars and euros, so I'll stay in reais. I'll keep it in reais. And so thank you, John, for being with us. I will hand the floor to you so that you can tell us about you a little bit and what the Nipkow program consists in. Applications are open and they go until January 5th. So this is a timely moment to think about if you want to apply. Hi, John. Thank you again for being with us.
Absolutely. Well, it's good afternoon, early afternoon here in Berlin, and it's a great pleasure to speak to you all in Brazil. My Portuguese is extremely limited, so this will be entirely in English. You may detect from my voice that I'm originally from the UK. However, I have been based in Berlin since I joined the Nipkow as one of the first fellows back in 1992. So I really am a Nipkow veteran, if you like. And certainly it was a great experience. And I work these days part-time at the Nipkow program, working in the office, but also as a mentor sometimes. So I'm going to give you what hopefully will be a useful short introduction to Nipkow, its history, but also very much what its aims are. And what I would say, however, is I hope that everybody will check out the Nipkow website, because that's where all the fundamentally essential information, how to apply, who the jury is, all the information that you possibly would need is there. So I hope after our talk today, when people are thinking of applying, you will get very much the up-to-date latest information at the Nipkow website. So briefly back to myself, the Nipkow program came into being in the early 1990s, and it was very much a product of its time. I mean, 1989, November, the fall of the Berlin Wall. And this was a vision born in those early days, at the very end of the 80s, but really the early 90s, where Berlin became, certainly at that time, very much the center of everybody's attention. And this idea of having a fellowship, a scholarship, to bring in filmmakers, not just from Germany, but from not quite the whole world, I'll explain in more detail, but to bring them to Berlin on a residency program to develop a project. Nipkow has always been about the application of individual filmmakers to develop their projects. I'll talk about that in more detail later. So here is Nipkow in the early 90s. Berlin is a tremendously exciting location to be in, as everybody can imagine. And I was particularly lucky that I was chosen in that very first summer, 1992, to be one of the very first Nipkow fellows. And I came out to Berlin at that time. And by the way, my project did actually have to do with Berlin. It was even called Memory of Berlin, and it's a project that took a lot longer to complete, I should say. But this is a project development program. And so people are at different stages. Sometimes it's fairly early. In other cases, these are projects that people have already been working on for even years. But the essential idea is to offer the fellow time to work on their project, time out, time off in a way, to be in an exciting environment of Berlin. And also, and I know very much that our three Brazilian Nipkow Fellows of this year will perhaps mention this, is the most exciting part in a way, is the fellow filmmakers that you meet from around the world. We know this from film festivals where we hang out with people for a few days. The great thing about the Nipkow program is that it's a residency program, that you are working individually on your own project, but you do workshops together. And in many cases, people form friendship and the basis for future collaborations. That was what I experienced in those early days. At that time, the Nipkow program was funded by the European Union's media program. That's a little bit of media history, and as such, it was open to everybody from Europe, but also, which was very interesting, to the countries of the former USSR. So we had in those early years some very interesting filmmakers. I mean, I'm coming from London, and that feels rather in the west of Europe, which I guess it is. But this was a whole constituency that brought in filmmakers from countries that I had even barely heard of, like Tajikistan, the great filmmaker Bakhtiar Khudanazarov, sadly no longer with us, other filmmakers. So it's an incredible mix of people. And I should say at that time, people who just won the Silver Lion at Venice. So people who were applying and came on board were really at the top of their game. So it was an incredibly creative environment. At a later point, I don't have the precise date in front of me, but the funding behind Nipkow changed from the media program to German funding, essentially. The Berlin Senate is a key figure here. Also, the Median Board, which is the regional film funding organization here. However, at the same time, the applications were widened to include the whole world. So, in fact, we have been open to global applications for certainly the last couple of decades, and that has brought in an even more mixed and fascinating group of people. Historically, I have to say, I had a quick look at the statistics. We have not had so many people from Latin America, and I just quickly checked, and we've certainly had a couple from Mexico, from Cuba, Bolivia, Uruguay, but these are one or two people maximum. So this year, as we'll mention later, the fact of having three Brazilian fellows was for us extremely exciting and highly unusual. By the way, I saw Secret Agent last night, and I'm still thinking about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but we're very excited about what's happening in cinema in Brazil. And so this is a dialogue that we're very keen to open up with you. So what else can I tell? I mean, certainly, I think you'll get some concrete feedback from Cassiano and Mariana, who can talk about their specific experience. But essentially, what I can say is that when you are, if you're lucky to be chosen, by the way, there are roughly, and I think that is decided every year based on the funding situation, but there are roughly 10 Nipkow Fellows that are chosen every year. There are an increasing number of applications, I should say, and as per usual, like with festivals and film schools, it's a high level of highly competent submissions. You don't apply as a team, by the way. You can apply as a director, a screenwriter, occasionally producer, but essentially it's the project that the jury is interested in. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Berlin or Germany. It can do, but that otherwise is not a factor at all. You can find out more about the jury on the website, currently led by French producer Christine Comdessous, and very experienced jury. And I can say that of the final shortlists, the final 2025, there is every single project is potentially could be chosen, and the jury really have a very intense period discussing which projects they're going to take. They do read everything, and so they have a very good sense of what people are applying with. But let's just say that the competition is high. We get some very high quality applications, and we're very keen that our discussion today will lead to some high quality applications from Brazil. So when people are in Berlin, I can summarize this quickly. We look at your project, we talk to you, and we choose an individual mentor, a script mentor, somebody who will work with you during the 3 months. And of course, people are applying, by the way, also applying with documentaries, but I would say the majority, certainly this last year, were fiction projects. And basically, people are working on a new draft, new version of their script, and they do so very much in close collaboration with their script mentor over the period of the 3 months. This is why it has to be a residency that's spread out, because if people are working, they need time to write and rewrite and think and get back. But that really is one of the key elements that people find understandably very valuable. There are script workshops, which are from a number of different sources, and they are, of course, where all the Nipkow fellows, that's where people are not only meeting each other, but they're listening to their other projects. And I have to say, it's the logic of the hive mind, is that we enjoy one of the pleasures as a filmmaker is when you're not just working on your own project, but you're listening to somebody else's. Often is easier to give feedback. And I have to say that is something that all the filmmakers on Nipkow really appreciate, is that dialogue between filmmakers on the development of projects. And people are taking short scenes that they're even acting out, and they're quizzing the screenwriter about characters' motivations, and nearly always the fellow will say, wow, I hadn't even thought of that. So it's really about being able to workshop your project with an international audience of very sort of highly motivated fellow filmmakers. There are other workshops that we do. There's a day that we spend with the Berlinale, unsurprisingly, and also with the Medienboard as the funding body, where they talk through what they're looking for and what your festival strategies might be, thinking about distribution and so on. There's another extremely popular workshop with a lady who's an international lawyer, not specifically to do with film, actually, but it's called The Art of Negotiation. And it really is, people find that, frankly, a life-changing workshop. I've done it myself about 3 times, because it forces you to think about how we negotiate. Of course, we're looking for win-win. That's not everybody's way of thinking in this world. Let's not mention any names. But essentially, it's one of the workshops that isn't specifically about film, but it's very much about communication and negotiation. Fantastic workshop. So there are also bespoke workshops that sometimes, we have certain workshops that have happened in recent years. However, things change and develop according to the way the market itself is changing and developing. So, for instance, for the last couple of years, one of my colleagues, Menon Yapo, who's also a script advisor, has done a really excellent workshop about how we might think about using artificial intelligence. I know that's a huge subject, and in many ways quite a controversial one, but it's about how we as filmmakers can regard AI as a tool that we use. And I think that is also, frankly, a life-changing workshop, that people get a new perspective, which is skeptical, but also pragmatic, thinking about how we might use this in an intelligent way. So Nipkow is very much depends on the active participation of the fellows, and we create a space where these dialogues can happen. Ideally, what we want for all the Nipkow fellows is that not only the project that they are working on, that the project that they apply with, but other future projects might start to come into being, and that might even be based on a connection that they make, a production company based here in Berlin, and it may even be a collaboration with another Nipkow fellow from the time that people are here. So everything's possible. We hope to create that space where things happen. They really do, and certainly looking at our 3 Brazilian fellows this year, when you come in and you hit the ground running with a lot of good energy and a wish to collaborate, then magical things can really happen. So it's a pleasure to work with our fellows, and I hope that if we open this out into a Q&A, if people have specific questions, I'll do my best to respond to that. But I hope I've given you some sense what Nipkow is about. And as I said, it certainly, I mean, my project that I came to make, I didn't complete it until 6 years after Nipkow was completed. That's the kind of project it was. I was working on other things in the interim. But I look back and I think how fundamental Nipkow was, and in my sense, life-changing. So the floor is open. We look forward to the next stage.
So you're a director and an alum. It's amazing that you have been affected that way by the program. Thank you so much. And also it's really, I think, very important that we put things into context. Where do these things come from? It's very important to understand the spirit of the lab. So thank you for that information. Sometimes it's the kind of information you don't really have on a website. And so thank you for that. Now, maybe we'll open up first to Law and Mariana, who can give us some kind of testimony. They can speak in Portuguese if they want to, because it makes sense, and John agreed to that beforehand. Mari, so I'll switch to Portuguese. Mari foi com um projeto chamado Aos Meus Antigos Amigos, e a Law com um projeto chamado Apneia. Vocês querem dar um depoimentozinho, vocês? Quem quer falar primeiro? Law, Mari, vão aí.
Posso falar?
Law abriu, vai.
Tudo bem, Josefina?
Tudo ótimo.
Hi, John. How are you?
Hello.
Miss you guys.
I am well. Miss you too.
Yes. So, bom, posso passar para o português?
Pode, a gente combinou isso com o John. Tudo bem.
Tá bom. Tá.
John is already fluent.
I'm learning.
Great. I'm sure about that. Não, assim, foi tipo, eu acabei de chegar, né? E aí eu vim para Bahia para descansar de Berlim, e aí tô aqui. E acabei de chegar e foi assim, tipo, foi muito mágico, como ele falou, assim. Eu acho que é life-changing mesmo, assim, porque a gente passa 3 meses num lugar como Berlim. 3 meses é bastante tempo, né? Normalmente os laboratórios, as residências, tem 10 dias, 15 dias e tal. Para o DAAD, que eu tô vendo que a Flora tá aí, a Flora que estava no DAAD, que é 1 ano. Não, 6 meses, né, Flora? E aí 3 meses é uma coisa que se aprofunda muito, assim, no lugar que você está vivendo. Eu acho que uma das grandes qualidades do Nipkow é justamente proporcionar que você viva intensamente a cidade. A gente não tem compromissos diários, a gente tem compromissos, sei lá, quinzenais, que são esses workshops, mas a gente acaba fazendo uma rede de contato com cineastas do mundo todo que estão com a gente no Nipkow, mas, sobretudo, a gente tem essa vivência em Berlim, com os encontros que eles proporcionam para a gente, o que eu achei que foi muito bom para mim, foi muito bom. Meu projeto está no estágio muito avançado de desenvolvimento, ele está praticamente pronto de roteiro, e serviu para mim justamente para ter certeza de que ele estava no estágio ideal para a internacionalização do filme. E o grande barato para mim foi a internacionalização do filme. Eu acabei tendo mais de uma mentoria, eu tive 4, na verdade. Uma de coprodução, uma de festivais com a Cat da Berlinale, e 2 de roteiro, para ter certeza de que a gente estava nesse lugar já. Então foi mais até de avaliação de roteiro do que de escrita mesmo. Então, para mim, especialmente, foi muito bom, porque eu fiquei bastante livre, porque eu não tinha que ficar escrevendo, então eu fiquei indo nessas reuniões que foram todas muito boas, e eu fiz alguns contatos que são fundamentais para o meu filme e para a minha vida mesmo. Assim, eu acho que tem isso que o John falou também, às vezes você vai com um projeto de um filme e sai com outro. Foi isso que aconteceu comigo. Meu projeto está super bem encaminhado, com o qual eu fui, que é o Apneia, e o meu próximo projeto também ficou super bem encaminhado. Então, eu acho que isso é muito, muito legal. E fora isso, que é Berlim. Ainda mais eu fiquei 3 meses em Berlim no verão, que aí é especialmente muito bom. Enfim, assim, eu recomendo fortemente. Eu já fui em algumas residências com esse filme, com outros, e eu acho que essa foi uma experiência realmente que mudou minha vida em vários sentidos, inclusive pessoal. E aí eu acho muito legal. Acho que a Mariana pode falar
Wow.
até mais. A Mariana está aí agora, né? Está em Berlim agora. Então, Mariana tá tirando bastante proveito desse tempo também, especialmente com os colegas, né, Mariana? Que eu desfrutei menos, porque quando eu fui, não tinha tanta gente. Essa é outra vantagem, a gente pode escolher os 3 meses que a gente vai passar durante o ano. E eu escolhi os primeiros 3 meses, a primeira janela, que era a partir de junho, e a Mariana pegou a partir de agosto, que tem mais gente. Então, acho que ela pode falar um pouco mais disso, até do relacionamento com as pessoas.
Nossa, obrigada, Ló. Isso dá
Obrigada a
muita vontade
você,
já.
Josefine. Obrigada a
Fala
você pelo
aí.
apoio, assim,
Imagina.
vocês do Paradiso pelo apoio, que é fundamental, assim, realmente.
Que bom. Fico feliz. Fala um pouco, Mari, que
Oi,
tá lá mesmo.
pessoal. Eu tô
Live from
claramente
Nipkow.
pelo suéter de lã que eu estou usando, dá pra ver que eu não tô no Brasil. Mas, então, tô aqui em Berlim, a residência acaba dia 24 para mim, e já tô até assim, uau, emocionada, assim, última semana aqui, e os últimos momentos, aproveitando tudo. Falando um pouquinho da residência, como a Alô falou, a residência ela é bem solta, assim, com a gente fazendo nosso próprio cronograma em geral. O John sabe que eu fico enchendo o saco deles lá na residência porque eu adoro ficar lá trabalhando. Eles têm um apartamento bem grande, assim, com uma mesa grande, café, chás e tudo mais. E às vezes quando eu quero realmente sentar e focar bastante, eu vou lá para aproveitar disso também e também conversar com eles. Eu acho que isso sempre faz bem, assim, para a gente como um geral. A gente acabou fazendo. Eu fiz todos os workshops que tem, assim. Realmente o workshop de negociação é absurdamente incrível, de uma forma meio bizarra, porque não tem absolutamente nada a ver com cinema, mas eu fiz ele virar todo um workshop de diálogo para mim. Diálogo realmente de roteiro, assim. Então, isso foi muito incrível. E essas mentorias one-on-one, assim, que a gente tem, faz muito sentido para você realmente chegar. Você tem que chegar com um projeto já, eu acho, né? Já falando assim, para você tirar o maior proveito, chegar com um projeto que você já quer mostrar e, assim, nas primeiras semanas que você está na residência para você ter pelo menos duas rodadas de feedback. Assim, eu acho isso bom. Porque a Lô falou, né? 3 meses é bastante tempo. Mas o segundo mês, eu tava falando pro John e pra Odd nessa semana. O segundo mês passa muito rápido. Muito rápido. O primeiro mês tu ainda tá entendendo como é que a cidade funciona, as coisas e tudo mais. O segundo passa muito rápido. Então, para dar tempo de ter essas duas rodadas de feedback no roteiro de longa-metragem, que é grande, né? Eu acho que vale a pena já chegar com o projeto já pronto para receber feedback. Se você quiser de roteiro, né? Tem gente que só trabalha no argumento também, durante a residência. Mas eu acho mais legal tirar proveito de já sair com um roteiro pronto, né? Acho que vale bem mais a pena, assim, de tempo utilizado. Vou falar algumas coisas específicas. Berlim é uma cidade muito incrível, tem muitas coisas culturais acontecendo. A Lô chegou no verãozão, o verão é incrível aqui, tem, nossa, todos os tipos de festival de graça, de música, de cinema, de todos os tipos de artes que vocês podem imaginar que existem, assim. As pessoas do meio artístico são muito conectadas também, a gente consegue fazer muitos amigos. A presença da Embaixada Brasileira em Berlim é muito forte, com muitos eventos culturais acontecendo também. Então, eles ficam te dando esse apoio também. É só assinar a newsletter deles, você consegue ver todos os eventos que estão acontecendo. E se você precisa de ajuda, eles estão lá para vocês também. Então, isso foi fundamental também na minha estadia aqui. Tem também a programação do Cine Brasil, que traz filmes brasileiros para Berlim. E eles adoram também conhecer pessoas que estão fazendo residências artísticas aqui. Eu fui convidada para os dois, para a estreia do Último Azul e do Agente Secreto, aqui em Berlim, por fazer parte assim dessa rede de cineastas por aqui. E falando um pouquinho mais da residência, não espere uma residência que vai ser uma residência que é meio que babá de vocês, assim. É uma residência muito que você coloca a energia que você vai tirar. Então, você tem que estar super organizado, você tem que ter disciplina em cima das suas próprias coisas, assim. A gente recebe uma bolsa da Nipkow, né, de 1.500 euros, o que é um valor ok para você conseguir achar um lugar para morar e comprar comida e viver com um pouco de entretenimento, assim. Não vai dar se você entrar na doidura de querer sair todos os dias e comer fora e etc, assim. Mas é um valor bem legal para você ficar tranquilo, assim, e realmente focar no seu trabalho da residência. Já digo para vocês que é fundamental respeitar esse tempo, né? Você está há 3 meses com um instituto da Alemanha acreditando em você e no seu projeto para você trabalhar no seu projeto. Não é para você ficar dando rolê na Europa e não entregando nada, sabe? Mas isso eles são bem específicos quanto a isso durante a aplicação e durante o tempo que a gente está aqui na Alemanha também. O que é fundamental também, porque essa é a parte mais legal, né, gente? É a gente se conectar com os outros fellows também, que são pessoas de todas as idades, de todos os lugares do mundo. A idade tende a ser mais pessoas, pelo menos com 30 anos, se não 35. Eu tenho 33 e eu era, tirando o Asgard, que não é Nipkow, eu era a mais nova da turma, assim, só para falar para vocês. E eu acho que agora eu vou parar de falar, porque eu quero que vocês chegam com dúvidas.
Okay. Obrigada, Mari. I sort of kind of gave John an idea of what you two were talking about. Do you want to rebound on something, John, that was said before we open up for questions?
No, thank you, Josephine, for summarizing, because I think Mariana kind of ticked all the important boxes. I mean, she mentioned the negotiation workshop as one that is universally popular, fantastic workshop. But it's really this question is that the 3 months, on one hand, what a luxury, how great to be able to focus for 3 months on a project, but equally that time goes really, really quickly. And so to be ready from day one, to be prepared, to have some clear goals, to be open, of course, to changing projects. That's the other thing, is it's not to just tweak it a little bit. It's you're going to be challenged even in some fundamental ways by a good script mentor. And whilst we may partly resist that, it's vital to be open and to listen. But I can say that pretty much without exception, the Nipkow Fellows all come with that attitude, and all, like Mariana, say sooner or later, it's already over. How did that happen? But if you work as efficiently as Lo and Mariana have done, then I think you'll get the most out of the project.
Right. Okay, I think it's very important just to also, we will open now for questions, but at some point, John, maybe it's important to remember who this is aimed at. And for instance, you need to have a first feature. If you don't, you need to have a short that has won awards in the main A-list festivals. So it's not, I mean, there's an angle. So this is all listed on the website, but I just want to make that clear here because I think it's a very important rule of entry. And yes, so maybe now if anybody wants to ask questions, you can take the mic, you can write it on the chat. Actually, I'm sorry, I was on the private chat. É possível escrever. So we already have a question. Rodrigo Celius, hey Rodrigo, is asking, can you apply with more than one project for the same director? Rodrigo is a director.
No, you apply with a principal project, because that's the project that the selection board, the jury, will look at and give their attention to. We cannot do that for multiple projects. Having said that, if you're successful and if you're awarded a Nipkow Fellowship, then whilst the expectation is that you will continue working on that project, we have some great multitaskers who, in fact, even start to work on new ideas, or they return to an older idea, or they do a workshop which somehow opens up an avenue. And frankly, we don't precisely judge. We want people to work, but actually, if you're lucky enough to get the Nipkow Fellowship, then people do often work on more than one project. But the key thing is in the application, and the jury will decide on the basis, on the quality of the project that you're submitting. So if you're not sure about something or you're still sort of playing with it, I would say wait to apply until you feel a project is already pretty coherent. So yeah, I hope that's clear.
Sure. Actually, something Lo mentioned, and I didn't write to you, is that she was working on a film that was pretty much in the latest stage, but it really helped her also with the next project that she is in the much earlier stage. The Nipkow residency also helped. So it's kind of what you were saying. Things can be on both tracks, but you have to apply with one project. Anybody wants to ask a question? Can ask for the mic or write it in the chat. Okay, Flora, we have a question from Flora, who's already done a residency before.
Yes, I just came back as well. I came back, I think at the same day that Lo came back to Brazil. I was in Berlin for 6 months as a film fellow at the AAD. And it was where I was developing I further developed my new project. And I think it fits perfectly to Nipkow because, because I really truly created some strong connections in Berlin. So it's really something that I'm looking for, this submission. But I have a question regarding production, because you asked for a production to be attached to the film already, but I wonder if there are some activities I could include my producer together, if online my producer could participate on some workshops, especially this negotiation, communication. If there is a space in the residency to include for some activities the producer, or it's more a residency that is really to the development of the project with the director and the scriptwriter.
My main answer is it is strictly for the applicant who applies as the Nipkow Fellow. We understand that, of course, people have important and close working relationships, but for instance, our workshops are not offered as a hybrid. I know that's something that we all experienced during the pandemic, but however, when we have a workshop on international co-productions or indeed the negotiation, the focus is very much in person, in the room at the time people are there. So I have to say, we don't offer that as a primary offer because it's very difficult to do justice to the work that needs to be done. I don't know, Mariana, did you want to come back on that?
Yeah, no, just adding to what John is saying, we have the workshops are in person, so it's really difficult to, looping someone online or things like this. But we have access to the workshop mentors. So, for example, in the co-production workshop, we delved into a lot of things that were related in co-production. And of course, my producer wasn't able to be there in person. But afterwards, we had a one-on-one with the mentor where my producer was online with us. But that's like a separate thing, right? So just that.
Okay. Flora, respondeu? Oh.
If I could add a second question related to this, because I'm in a point that I will be looking for co-production, and I have some interest in co-producing with Germany because of my time there. Is the residency could create this connection or help creating this connection, putting me in contact with some production companies and everything?
Absolutely. That's explicitly the aim of the Nipkow program, is to bring you it's a bespoke program. It's about trying to not give you generalized information, but to give specific information once we have the best understanding of what your project is and what you specifically need. But absolutely, if there is the chance of a co-production with Berlin, for instance, or Germany more widely, because of course we have a regional system where it's not just everything. We're based in Berlin, so obviously those are the first doors we knock on. But of course there may be other connections out there that work better. So explicitly, that is part of the Nipkow program's brief, is to create the conditions to help you connect to potential co-producers. Yes.
Sorry, not only co-producers, but also sales agents, funds, festivals. For me, it was very, very good for that. All the circle. It was so good.
That's a huge asset when a lab also connects you to the kind of the whole ecosystem. It's wonderful. So yeah, something to take advantage of. So two things. We have a question and we have Cassiano with us. So hi, Cassiano, you're in Berlin right now. Of course, you're based in Berlin. So Law and Mariana have talked a bit about the lab. I will take Dario's question before handing the floor to you because he's been waiting in the chat for a while. But then we want to hear about your experience. So Dario, is there a specific genre or theme that you are looking for, like an editorial line, I would say, for the selection?
That's an easy question to answer. No. I mean, what the jury always says to us is, this might sound very unclear, but it's the quality of the project, whatever that means. I mean, the individual jury members have their own particular. I mean, if you look at the jury, we have German filmmaker Detlef Buck, and he's making comedies, for instance. There's the producer Christine Comnesu. So you could say that individual jury members certainly have their own tastes, but I can tell you that discussion for the final selection is really passionate and based on a whole range of factors. Certainly, the chances of I mean, there are projects which the jury will find interesting, but if they don't think that the project has a possibility to reach an audience, for instance, if they think it's something that perhaps wouldn't go that final step, that is a factor, as it is with the funding bodies, perhaps more so than in earlier decades. So I would say if I can say the word viability rather than the commercial sector, but certainly that is one aspect. I wouldn't say it's the only one. But in terms of genre, style, then no, I can absolutely say without hesitation there isn't a secret agenda.
Great. So Cassiano, you can speak in Portuguese if you want, and let us know a bit about your experience, and also maybe if we want to, because we're getting closer to the end, but want to focus on maybe some do's and don'ts, recommendations, tips, any practical, because I guess I just want to take this moment to say it's a super competitive program. It's absolutely amazing that we had 3 Brazilians this year. I mean, yeah, congrats. It says a lot about you 3 here. We don't know what it's going to be like next year. It's not a guaranteed slot. We don't have a partnership where we guarantee a slot because it's a competitive program. This is the case in many other programs we are partnered with, like TFL. I mean, those are super competitive and they're open to the whole world. So we cannot secure a slot for Brazilians. So there might be 0. And we, of course, are rooting for all of you and for this scenario not to be the case. If it is more than 1, though, Nipkow will also select the recipient of the fellowship. We cannot offer more than 1 fellowship. So you still have the Nipkow, of course, support, but the Paradiso support will be for 1 project only. I just want to make that clear. We're going to be rooting, of course, for all of you who are here and will apply. But these are the scenarios. Scenario, I hate that. So Cassiano, tell us a bit about you and your experience.
Sure. I would highlight what John said about the bespoke aspect of the program, which I found really incredible. So you have the chance to really ask you're looked after. You have the workshops, but then like in your free time, the Nipkow people are interested in asking you what you need for support, whatever. Like they make sure that you are totally looked after. And I thought this was incredible because the stages of the projects are very different. And in terms of do's and don'ts, I think because of this aspect, which is very flexible and nice and human, some people might interpret as like it's, you just go there sometimes and you have free time in Berlin. I think you have to be really like using this time because another idea might come up. Oh, maybe I could start, maybe I moved on with my treatment a lot quicker. Maybe I can take advantage of, I don't know, meet some co-producers. I mean, it's so rich if you're hitting the points that you put to yourself, you can take a lot of advantage out of the program.
Could I just come back to thank Cassiano for making that point, because I think it really is an attitude that well, certainly our 3 Brazilian Nipkow fellows all got it very quickly. It's about an attitude of sharing and giving to enlighten self-interest. It's in everybody's interest. We've written on the website that we're not a visiting scholarship, that we are a residency program, because we want people to come and engage. I mean, some of that time you are going to be on your own writing, but certainly the program really only works where people actively participate. So, and I know for sure that our 3 Brazilian fellows this year completely got that and benefited accordingly. So they set a very high standard, and I hope it's going to inspire a lot of great applications this year.
Certainly. So thank you, Cassiano, for your little testimony. Anybody else has questions? There are no more questions in the chat. Someone is sending a heart. I'm happy. I think it's Cassiano. So anybody else? It's the time to do so. We're very lucky to have John, and we're in a very, safe space here. So if you do have a question, it's certainly something that somebody else has on his mind or her mind. So don't hesitate.
There's one thing I might add, by the way, is because Nipkow has now been in existence for over 30 years, since the early 90s, we actually have quite a large network. I think we've listed all the Nipkow fellows on the website. And in some cases, I mean, in my particular case, here am I as a former fellow who works at Nipkow occasionally these days, but also we sometimes connect to former fellows in terms of working as mentors, getting projects off the ground, and not just those here based in Berlin. So we think of it as without being too sentimental, a kind of Nipkow family. Once you join, you're in the family for life. Just remember that, Cassiano and Mariana. It is really about creating a connection that will last longer than the scholarship. And we also want people to keep in touch, to tell us, because we know, as in my case, that projects sometimes take a bit longer to actually realize. We absolutely want to keep that as a connection, as a two-way dialogue. So there is a bigger Nipkow network out there that we hope that you will connect to and be part of.
That's wonderful. We are strong believers in networks. We have some members of our Paradiso network here, and we always are super happy to welcome more and to really keep this network a nurturing environment way beyond the actual experience that you have that makes you enter the network. It really is a long-lasting I think benefit. It's wonderful. So congrats on that. We are strong believers in it. Okay, hold on. We have a question. We have 2 questions. Is it difficult to accept animated projects for the application? How are animation projects in your selection?
We have had animation in the past. It is true that in terms of just the sheer amount of time and what people have to show, is that isn't easy to slot in alongside what we might think of as conventional fiction or indeed feature-length documentaries. So, Odd, are we still open to animation? Yeah, so our animation is still part of the brief, and of course those are perhaps you're right, a special case is that we would, there is an openness there because we understand that animation really takes an incredible amount of time and work. So that is a special case. So we very much animation is part of our brief.
Okay, great. Gustavo will be happy. We have another good question. It's for the participants, and is asking about what they think was a selling point of their applications. What did they do right as they were applying? And second question is, what was the most important transformation, or the highlight of what they got from the residency as to the project after the residency? So what was the main getaway for the project from the residency and the selling point of the application? Who wants to join about that, Mari?
Eu posso responder a
Vai,
primeira
Ló.
parte e deixar para a segunda para eles. A primeira, o que eu acho que é o mais importante do projeto, eu acho assim, obviamente, eles querem pessoas que sejam muito criativas. Quando você chega lá e encontra os seus colegas, você fala, nossa, gente, sério que eu tô aqui no meio dessa galera? Assim, porque, tipo, é muito high level, assim, no sentido da criatividade mesmo, do talento de cada um. Só que o que eu acho que é uma coisa importante, eu acho que é o potencial internacional do filme, porque, na verdade, ele acaba virando uma porta de entrada, o Nipkow funciona como uma porta de entrada para o mercado europeu, para mercado, para festival e tal. Eu acho que isso é uma coisa que eles realmente, mesmo que o projeto esteja no início, eu acho que é levar ele com essa pegada internacional. Então, eu acho que isso é muito bom de você, primeiro, ter essa ciência, né, consciência do que é o seu projeto, do que você quer para o projeto, né? Isso é uma coisa, isso vale para festival, vale para laboratório, vale para residência, vale para tudo. Você aplicar para o que você acha que aquele lugar é bom para o seu projeto, né? Às vezes não é. Então, assim, eu acho que tem que ser um projeto com essa pegada, com a vontade e a pegada da internacionalização, além de ser um projeto muito bom criativamente, que eu acho que é o critério primeiro, né, de seleção. Isso.
Obrigada, Ló.
Vou adicionar nas coisas que eu estava falando, assim, eu creio que definitivamente a questão criativa é um ponto muito importante. Os projetos são de níveis criativos altíssimos, assim, coisas que a gente nunca pararia para pensar a respeito, assim, ideias muito específicas de cada um dos seus criadores. Além da questão de internacionalização dos projetos, eu acho que tem também uma questão de viabilidade do projeto. Assim, eu acho que eles realmente veem se você tem a capacidade de fazer o projeto acontecer, ou não, eventualmente, assim. Claro, não precisa ser no ano seguinte, ele não precisa estar captado, nem um pouco isso. Eu acho que não tinha nenhum projeto com captação, mais do que um pouquinho de dinheiro de desenvolvimento que alguns tinham dentro do nosso roster, assim. Mas eu realmente acredito que tem uma questão de que eles querem ver o seu potencial de fazer o projeto acontecer, ver que você já participou de labs, já participou de mercados, ou seus produtores, que você faz parte desse meio do cinema, assim. Mas eu vou só adicionar que, ao mesmo tempo que eu acho tudo isso, eu também acho que com a vivência de, enfim, labs, editais e etc., que muitos de nós temos, a gente nunca vai saber. Pode ser que conectou demais com 3 jurados e eles amaram, e 10 de 10, e daí entrou, sabe? A gente nunca vai saber dessas coisas específicas, assim. Então não se coloquem para baixo também de não achar que entrou num nível criativo ou qualquer coisa que a gente está falando aqui, assim, porque pode ser qualquer coisa que está dando na telha deles na hora. E para responder a segunda pergunta, para mim, maiores ganhos foi que eu e meu produtor, a gente conheceu muita gente aqui em Berlim, as maiores post-production houses aqui em Berlim, produtores gigantes, toda a galera da Berlinale. O projeto fica tracked pela Berlinale, tá? Porque a gente encontra eles, então o projeto automaticamente fica se você for mandar um e-mail depois que o projeto estiver pronto, para o programador ver, vai estar lá na planilha de Excel deles, entendeu? E em termos de escrita, foi realmente ter tido o tempo e a cabeça, assim, e eu me programei, né, gente? Eu cheguei e falei, cara, eu não vou pegar nenhum job para esses 3 meses, eu só vou fazer application, vou deixar tudo pronto no Brasil e quando eu voltar eu continuo, assim, para realmente ter a cabeça de sentar e fazer versões muito polidas, novas do projeto, assim. Então, acho que essas são minhas respostas.
Obrigada, Mari.
Eu só vou adicionar uma última coisa que, por ser um fellowship internacional, muita gente acha que o filme tem que ter alguma relação com o âmbito internacional, se passar em mais que um país ou ter alguma relação com a Alemanha. Pelo contrário, os filmes que estavam lá são extremamente locais e específicos e não tem nada a ver. Não precisa se preocupar com isso. É pegar realmente o que é mais precioso, o que você mais acredita e mandar ver.
Great. Those are really great answers. John, you want to add on to something that was said, the points that.
By the sound of it, I think we've covered a lot of ground. I mean, obviously, when people apply, we are able to respond to queries by email, although I have to say, and I don't wish to sound like a teacher here, sometimes we say, have you read the website? And people are asking basic things. And I'd just like to reiterate that, please read the website. When it comes to making an application, you will save time because it's, I think, very, very clearly summarized. There's one element, by the way, this year, which is new, which is asking you to do a video presentation of the kind of director's perspective. And that's something that is a part of the written application. We've always had it. It's nothing new in that, but actually to do a video presentation of that, a short video presentation, is a new element this year. And I know some people find that easier than others, but it's something I think people can practice and rehearse and try out. At least it doesn't have to be live. It's something that you record and send in.
Great. Yeah, so I think we're closing in and on this really, really enriching, interesting live session with John and Mariana, Cassiano, and Law. Thank you for your contributions as well. I don't see any more questions in the chat and nobody's raising their hands, so I think we can call it a day. I want to thank you again, John, for your time. I want to wish everyone good luck. It's a beautiful, beautiful, unique residency. We're super happy. It took us a really long time to get closer, but it's always been an object of desire. I think Nipkow residency is absolutely wonderful experience, and we've heard only great things about it. So I can only wish for one of you or for a Brazilian project to be selected next year again. So this is it. Thank you very much, Mari, everybody, and especially John for your time, and good luck to everyone.
Good luck, everybody.
Take care.